All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Doyle, Director of Marketing here at Blue Corona, and welcome to today's webinar about how home service companies are maximizing paid search leads year-round. We're joined today by Olivia Duke, our Director of Digital Marketing Services here at Blue Corona, and as well as Leon Franco and Trista Wade from Google. So we're excited to have Leon and Trista here with us for today's webinar, where we're going to cover a few new Google Ads features and talk about limited by budget and what that really means for your paid search campaigns and some other really cool stuff with Google Ads. So Olivia, Leon, Trista, thank you guys for joining. But everyone's not here to listen to me speak. So Olivia, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for those on today's webinar?
Thanks, Brandon. Hey, everybody. I'm Olivia Duke, our Director of Digital Marketing Services here at Blue Corona. And I work very closely with our PPC team to, optimize our Google Ad strategies, as well as constantly test against to improve our best practices. And because of that, I work very closely with Trista and Leon here to make sure that we're always testing the newest products and features available in Google Ads. So Trista, with our relationship, we work very closely together, but would love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Trista Wade here. I'm the Agency Development Manager for the Blue Corona and Google partnership. I've had the pleasure of working with the team for about 2 years now, and I overall focus on agency enablement, growth, and strategy. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Leon.
Thank you, Trista, and hi, everybody. My name is Leon Franco. I am the Senior Account Strategist here at Google in working with the partnership at Blue Corona here. So like Olivia mentioned, we work very closely to make sure that we are pushing the envelope, testing, and using all the new features and uncovering all the potential that Blue Corona's clients have to discover.
Well, thanks, everyone. Trista, tell us what we're going to learn about here today.
Sure. So today's agenda, we're actually going to be a little bit more conversational, more of a roundtable type of discussion. My colleague Leon and I will answer a few questions and provide insights and perspective on, as you mentioned, budget insights, understanding seasonality, exploring the customer journey, automated bid strategies, and then we'll round out with ad features that can help drive paid performance.
So before we jump into today's webinar in depth, I wanted to take a step back. For those of you who aren't familiar with Blue Corona, we want to thank you for joining. And if you are a Blue Corona client, thank you for taking the time out of your day here as well. Blue Corona is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in helping local businesses grow, and specifically home service businesses, everyone from HVAC and plumbers and electricians to moving and storage companies, roofers, landscapers, you name it. If it's in the interior, exterior, home services type industries, that's really our bread and butter. And we help our clients accomplish really 3 core goals. Number 1, we help them increase leads in sales and really focusing on qualified leads that turn into sales. We help our clients reduce their marketing costs by optimizing their various campaigns, like pay-per-click campaigns, like we're going to discuss here today, and differentiate their brands online. We want to position our clients as the authority in their local markets for what they do and how they do it. So that's a little bit about Blue Corona. Trista, could you tell us a little bit about the relationship that we have here at Blue Corona with you and your team over at Google?
For sure. As Premier Partners, you all have exclusive access to a host of different benefits, many of which are included here on this slide, from product trainings and resources to executive summits, and even to events like these today, especially tailored to your audience base. We work together on customized account strategy. We provide industry data and insights, as well as having access to the beta programs for your clients so that they're able to be first movers on product rollouts.
Awesome. Thanks, Trista. Well, let's get right to it. The first question we have, and I'm sure a lot of our audience members have heard this from their agencies or maybe even from Blue Corona as it relates to their paid search campaigns and Google Ads. So Leon, what is limited by budget and what does that really mean?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. So this is a term that we use, all the time to explain to our agencies, to our partners, to our end clients, that there's opportunity for them out there that they have not been able to reach because of the investment amount that they've decided to put into their Google Ads. So in other words, the Google Ads spends different amounts on a daily basis, and then on an average, it will try to spend what you decide to do as a monthly budget. But when you stop serving early in the day, and there's still a lot of searches and a lot of potential for clients, qualified leads, sales out there, but you're not able to show because of the budget, that's where the limited by budget example kind of comes in. Think more about it like if you walk into a $5 and below store and you have a $5 bill. Sure, you can get the most expensive product in the store, but you could only get one, or you could get 5 of $1 products, or there's a mix of things that you could do, but you're limited to just those $5, and you can spend 10 seconds in the store and you're done, and you've kind of left all the rest of the inventory out there for everyone else who has $5, $10, $15, $20 for the taking. So think about limited by budget that way, if that makes it a little bit easier.
And one thing I want to emphasize here, because, when you see this alert limited by budget, what I want to make sure everybody knows is this is based on your current targeting. So this is based on the keywords you are going after, the negative keywords you've excluded, the locations you're targeting, and the ad schedule that you're targeting. So when you see this limited by budget, it's not saying let's cast a bigger net, let's go spend more. It's actually saying there's more of the same out there. And if you're happy with your cost per lead and your return on investment for that campaign, it's saying that you're leaving something on the table. So when you see this alert, just remember that it is based on your current targeting and keeping that in mind as it proposes that new recommended budget.
Yes, that's a great point. It is more of what you are currently doing. So it's more of being a kid going into that store and it's all the same price. There's more out there, but you just want more of what you already can get. Thanks, Olivia, for adding that in there. Now we'll go talk a little bit about what this looks like in the Google Ads interface. So you can see here, this is a typical Google Ads interface account, right? There's obviously no information at the moment because we're using this, to share with everyone. But you can see there's a status column that has a lot of red writing, and it says limited by budget. So that's really where you can understand and you can see, hey, this campaign doing what it is currently doing has more potential if we open up the budgets, and increase the amount we can invest there. There is more leads, more sales to get at what we're currently getting on there at the moment, like Olivia just mentioned. It is based, over a longer period of time. It's not saying that one day, that every single day, you're limited by budget exactly the same. You can tell from the graph here that there's dips and there's peaks and valleys, because every day is going to be slightly different in Google Ads. Sometimes people are going to search more, sometimes people are going to search less, but on the average, you in these campaigns are limiting your exposure to what's possibly out there. And then all the way to the right of this screenshot, you can see that there is a limited search loss IS, that stands for impression share, due to budget. So for all of those who want to maybe get an idea of what is out there, that what kind of volume is there out there that I might not be capturing at the moment, this is a good way of saying, if you look at the first line, it's approximately 58%. So that tells you that doing what you're currently doing, you're not showing up 58% of the time simply because we are limited by budget. So it's a good kind of directional number to say, hey, what's the volume out there? What else can I get? How big is the opportunity and what I'm happy with? And then in the same Google Ads interface, for those campaigns that are limited by budget, we do have another section where it's the recommendations. So for those of us who want maybe a little bit more direction on what the opportunity could be, what it could look like, here you have an example of the recommendation. So of course, in a regular account, you would have the account and campaign information in here. And it would say, in the first campaign, if we decide to increase our budgets by about $2,430 a week, we can assume that we're going to get about 8.45 more conversions, and the cost per conversion could increase by $1.34. And you can see that there is other examples where the cost per conversion actually decreases and the volume is significantly higher if we increase our investment. So each campaign is unique, but each campaign has some of these recommendations and can point us in the direction of, hey, it's going to be cheaper and we can get more because there's more inventory out there, or it's going to be more expensive, but we can estimate how expensive it is so we can decide and take that risk that we're comfortable with.
So thank you, Leon, and thanks, Olivia, for that. Sounds like there's a lot of great opportunity out there, just depending on that campaign. But one of the things, being that Blue Corona works in the home services industry, and a lot of home service industries, and I'm just going to use HVAC or heating and cooling as an example, experience some pretty severe peaks and valleys in their own seasonality in their own business. Summertime, wintertime might be much more busier, a lot more demand out there than maybe the fall and springtime when people have their windows open, they're not firing up their HVAC systems as much. So how does seasonality impact pay-per-click budgeting?
Yes, so that's a great question. So Leon and Olivia just spoke a little bit about demand, and that helps us understand why linear budgets really are a thing of the past. Instead, you want to set a budget in a way where you don't miss those opportunities. Seasonality and demand over time, they really work in a similar manner. Like we mentioned, the peak times, you'll want to ensure your budget can accommodate that increase in demand. So this will help support you being able to capture more impressions. And then in turn, potentially lead to more clicks, more website traffic, and overall more conversions and leads. There's always been this idea, or not always, there's been an idea that you could set your budget for 12 months, leave it, and you don't have to revisit it until the next 12 months. But again, that's really a thing of the past because we have data that shows seasonality trends that really help us understand increased search volume. So having a flat budget means that you're missing out on the growing volume and potentially your competitors are going to win that share. And if we move forward, let's take a look at the next slide. So let's say that we're an HVAC service and repair company with a flat budget for those 12 months. You're missing out on the peak of impressions and queries from your audience during the summer months, like you mentioned, Brandon, as well as failing to really drive awareness in the months that have less demand, but that actually precede your peak seasonality. So that's another consideration. We don't only want to be present during the peak months, we also have to think about that awareness piece ahead of the peaks. If we move forward and we take a look at plumbing, you'll notice that your overall interest and demand have actually increased in 2021 compared to the previous 2 years. So this is some great news. But if your budget has remained stagnant over the last few years, your competitors who haven't, they're the ones that are winning on the share, and you're essentially eliminating yourself from capturing that increased demand. Also, we understand that businesses are very in tune with the seasonality of their business. But at Google, we encourage having conversations with your agency, with the account managers at Blue Corona to understand how trends may be shifting and what the search data is showing them. You all have access to bespoke reports that you can request from myself and Leon, and they jump into specific industries. They show trended seasonality over time, CPC, a lot more data than what we're able to show here. But if you request one of those bespoke reports, you're really able to take into consideration all of the different factors that should impact your budget.
So we've talked a little bit about budgets, Tristan and Leon. We've talked about seasonality, but we all know that, as a consumer, we have the world at our fingertips, right? We have our mobile phones or in our iPhones always in our wallet, or in our pockets, right? And we might not always all start our search with Google, although a good chunk of us do when we need a home service company. So can you talk a little bit about the customer journey and the steps that a customer might go through and why that is important in relation to Google Ads and paid search in particular?
Yes, for sure. So A customer journey is really just that. It's the path followed by a customer via various touch points before they make a decision to either purchase an item or select a company for a service. Usually, customers are going to interact, like you mentioned, with several different devices, several different channels before they actually take an action. And these are known as the touch points. So as we see illustrated here, this particular customer may first become aware of the service via YouTube. You know, they're spending a little time watching some videos. Then let's say they start their workday, but they take a break and they visit a news outlet or they catch some highlights on ESPN. So then they interact via display ads. Let's say after that, they're next engaged in another activity that takes them to their laptop. So each step of the way, the company that shows up, they're beginning to become more familiar and more recognizable. So when the user then has a need, an emergency that requires them to search, you know, HVAC repair near me or 24/7 plumber near me, they see a company that they're familiar with that comes up when they search in Google. Of course, they're going to see a few others, but it's the company that's been, you know, really present during their customer journey that they're likely to decide to choose. We understand also that if a company has maintained a really strong presence during those important touch points, that is going to help with the engagement and overall the decision-making process of that user. And if we take a look, I think at the next slide, perfect. So this highlights that there are various stages of the customer journey and for your audience, and they might not all be at the same stage at the same time. So in the same way that we have multiple touch points, there's also an added complexity when you consider the stage in the journey. So let's say that a user is a new homeowner and they're really more concerned with decorating their home. They're not looking for your service, but they're going to YouTube for inspiration. That's an opportunity to be a part of one of their touch points. Let's say they then move into needing to look for a service and they're considering multiple services. This is another time that your company is able to be a part of this stage of their journey. And again, we understand that, you know, when your business is able to be present and engage your audience through their customer journey, whether they're actively searching or not, you're going to be top of mind when they are ready to make a decision.
And should campaigns really be managed manually or smart bidding? We know there's a lot of technology out there that allows the machine learning that Google has at its disposal, you know, to kind of take over a little bit, but there's also a human element to that as well. So can you guys talk about, you know, the question of should campaigns really be managed by a person manually or through smart bidding?
Yeah, I'll take this one. The question is a great one, and the answer is a little bit tricky, right? Because the goal is to go to smart bidding, but it might not necessarily be the best option every single time. If we go on to the next slide, shows a little bit about how our behavior as consumers has evolved, right? From having multiple platforms, like Trista just mentioned, having different points in the journey, different browsers. It's evolved very, and we want to make sure that we reach the right users at the right time, and that's very important. That's where where the smart bidding comes in and helps us. So if we go to the next slide, we can talk a little about where we all started. We all started with digital advertisement being on keywords, and that was the most important thing. You wanted to make sure you had all the keywords, all the right keywords, so that when people were looking for your brand or your business or your services, you would show up. Then the world evolved and we had more technology coming in. So the next slide shows that we started getting into devices, day of the week, interest, time. All these things started being able to be tracked. We were able to use information and target users based on this information. In today's world, we have even more, right? We have demographics, operating system, browser, device type. Things are getting more and more complex as we have more data, our machine learning gets better, the world becomes more digitalized. We have more users on multiple different devices at a time. Everything gets evolved. right? So we have multiple key points of contact that are very, very hard to control. So you can see in the next slide, this is where smart bidding kind of kicks in, right? So it's making sure that every single one of these users that we want to target has a unique path with a unique set of clicks, behaviors, interests, and demographics. It's all, there's no one size fits all. And that's where smart bidding comes in. At this point, assessing all of those possible touch points and all those possible different details is nearly impossible, right? It's doable, but it takes more time, more effort. And all this in combination is where, partners like Blue Corona come in. It's not using smart bidding is not letting the machine learning or the algorithm take full control. It requires time, it requires a skill, it requires information, and it still requires day-to-day management to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And that's where the next slide kind of kicks in. So where we were discussing, right, should they be smart bidding or should it be manual, right? Like I said, the goal is going through smart bidding. But each of these smart bidding options that Google has offers at the moment, right? So maximize conversion and maximize conversion value is focused for the more budget constrained, more budget focused end client, where our other options like Target CPA and Target ROAS are focused for the high growth clients, people who might have more budgets, could invest more as long as we're, getting the efficiency they would like to get. Their ROAS is positive and they're growing their business. So it does require skill. And that's where, like I said, Blue Corona comes in to say, hey, this client or this specific campaign is worth it for this strategy or this strategy. And then looking at what comes next after that and how growth happens. And now going back to the left side of this, the manual bidding and the enhanced CPC, that's again where I said it's a tricky question, because for markets or for clients where we're starting out these campaigns or they're new to different partners, it requires the agency's expertise to try to use manual and any CPC bidding to learn about the account. Is the account budget constrained, or is the account not budget constrained based on the data that we're starting to gather? So it's all in a step function of, hey, let's start here, let's get the data, let's understand, and then let's let our partners with the information that they have then go ahead and suggest the right move forward with smart bidding. And it kind of ties everything in together, right? Talking about the peaks and the valleys with limited by budget days, or difference in seasonality, or difference in your kind of audience and the path. All of those different aspects get taken into account when using smart bidding strategies at the query level. So every time someone searches, at that point, the algorithm can analyze all of those different touch points and decide this is the best user for our business at the moment, and this is how much we're willing to go for.
And as Leon said, a lot of what we do is not just should we use smart bidding, but what's the best smart bidding strategy to achieve your goals. So actually on the next slide, we have a couple examples of tests where we've put enhanced CPC, which is a semi-automated but manual-based bidding strategy, up against what we determined to be the best smart bidding strategy moving forward. So these are real test examples. On the left, we have a test where we ran maximize conversions against enhanced CPC, where that campaign had been limited by budget, and due to capacity, raising budgets wasn't an option at that time. And what we saw when running head-to-head with maximize conversions is that at a flat cost, we were able to drive 55% more conversions using maximize conversions. And that was really driven by the 47% increase to conversion rate.
Olivia,
right,
just for the folks out there who may not know, conversions, what exactly do you mean by conversions?
And that's actually another great point, and why it's important to have a partner who, can get all the data in line for you. Because in order to use smart bidding strategies, you have to be piping in the data that you should optimize towards. So we are piping in, our call data, our form data, our chat data, anything that we determine to be a lead for you, we're piping back into our campaigns so that we can reward the bidder appropriately and, confirm that which clicks are converting and which aren't, what's bouncing from the site and things like that. And so on the right, we have an example of a target CPA test. And so with this test, we did have the potential to spend more. We just wanted to keep that cost per conversion in line. So what you see over here is we actually drove an 86% increase to conversions when testing target CPA, driven by the fact that we spent more, but also converted at a higher rate too. So when you compare the two smart bidding strategies, really think about maximize conversions when budget should be your main constraint, and target CPA when that CPA should be your main constraint. But both bidders allow you to increase conversion rate, given Google can really identify those clicks that are most likely to convert using its prediction models better than a human can.
Yeah, these, and this is kind of what I work with on a daily basis with Blue Corona and so on. These were just great kind of lighthouse stories here that and case studies that we looked into. The one thing I just love to point out is that, or the little elephant in the room, right, is that who wouldn't want to use flat cost and increase their conversions? That seems like the best case scenario right here on the left. But again, not to sound repetitive, but that's where Blue Corona kind of the partnership comes into play. It's not for everyone. Some people are better off with target CPA, and it's going to be very campaign by campaign specific or account by account. So it's just something to really keep in mind, and where the expertise kind of comes in, and the partnership that we've been building to kind of get these wonderful results for each one of their clients.
So we've talked a little bit now about the different types of ad bidding, and again, seasonality, limited by budget, but it seems like, Trista and Leon, that your team over there at Google is constantly adding things to the first page of search results, right? There's things like local services ads, which of course are separate from Google ads and pay-per-click search. But even within pay-per-click itself, there seems to be all these new features and functionalities that ultimately end up either taking up more room on the search engine result page on that first page of Google, or possibly making those ads interactive. Trista, what are a couple of those new features that Google has recently rolled out?
Yeah, you're right. We have covered quite a bit today. There's definitely a lot to consider. And then it's really your team that takes their expertise to create these customized advertising strategies. So yeah, let's jump into it and see what are some of those that can help drive their paid search performance. Awesome. So here, looking at this slide, as we know, driving leads really is a full funnel effort. It's a combination of search, display, discovery, and video. And then we also layer in some products that we'll jump into. So first we have the lead form extensions. And if we move forward one more, they really allow a seamless and intentful connection between advertisers looking to grow their businesses and their prospective customers looking to engage further. So ultimately, it provides a quicker way for searchers to connect with the business. And then it's also a fast and easy way for advertisers to collect leads. And again, this can be done across search, display, and YouTube.
So Trista, you're saying that, I'll use myself as an example, that if I were to search for a roof repair near me, right, because I got a leak and need to get that fixed, you're saying I would be able to actually like input all my information directly on the search results?
Yeah, actually, if we move forward one more, I think we have a slide that shows it. Or actually, if we're looking at that one, perfect. Yes, this is the one where if you can see in this example, there's a search term that's being entered. So a user types in a search term, the lead form actually appears with the ad. You can see it there where it says, I believe, sign up. The user, like you, Brandon, you enter your information, you hit submit, and the information is then safely sent to the business so they can then follow up on the lead. So you don't have to do too many clicks. It's just the same search term that you were going to enter anyway. It pops up with the ad. And now you have this call to action that's saying, hey, if you need more information, if you want to go ahead and sign up, whatever that call to action is you decide on, you're able to then enter your information and the business has that.
What about image extensions? I know image extensions are a new feature and additional lead form extensions as well.
Yeah, so image extensions are super exciting because people are highly visual, especially when it comes to making a decision or evaluating a few options. We found that users are more likely to engage with visual formats because they help you to understand the message more easily and to also take action a little bit more quickly. So with image extensions, advertisers are able to upload a relevant image to accompany their text ad. So think about it, when you're booking a service or a company that's going to come into your home, users are looking to be assured. They want to see signs of professionalism, trust, and experience. So choosing a great image that can complement an ad is super important and can drive some great results. We also have data that shows that image extensions are helpful in increasing click-through rate of ads.
Olivia, what type of images is Blue Corona using today? You heard Trista talk on images that, convey professionalism, trust, right? What are some of those images that we're using today on behalf of our own clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I know when you're looking at Kauai, you're thinking what kind of image can be compelling for a home service industry, but some great ways to not only kind of showcase your service, but also showcase your brand would be, your truck, having that, great logo exposure through an image of your team getting out of a truck, having somebody, in your branded uniform, ready to perform the service. Or another great example is for our remodeling folks out there, what's your best work? We can assign these image extensions to the campaign level. So, for the bathroom remodel campaign, having a photo of some of your best bathroom examples. For kitchen, we can assign photos specific to that campaign as well to really showcase your work.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. Oh, one more slide here, but I think Trista, you've already touched on the types of images and whatnot, and increasing click-through rate. Olivia, maybe you could talk about that. Trista said that they have some data that shows that images increase click-through rate. What sort of impact does click-through rate have on campaigns, and why is that important?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to point out is this is an extension. So it's tied on to your existing ad. So it's another incentive, another kind of way you can make your ad stand out to competitors. If we are using image extensions in a market where no one else is, think of just how much more your ad will pop and draw those clicks. A higher click-through rate actually within the auction helps you increase your rank based on the quality score aspect and everything like that, which can lead to better efficiency in your cost per click as well. And so having that historical click-through rate increase can even build efficiency into your campaigns as well.
So Olivia, if I heard you right, click-through rate can increase efficiency as it relates to cost per click. So are you saying that cost per click could actually decrease and you can get clicks for cheaper?
Right. So think of it as you have two components. You have your bid and you have your quality score. And if you increase one, you don't have to bid as high to rank higher. So you can either use it as a tool to get more volume, leverage that higher click-through rate to go after more, or, in a situation where you can get the same at a potentially lower cost per click as well.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we're all about reducing costs. If we can lower those costs, increase that ROI, that's a win-win for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
And Trista, how about some of the audience types that may be available through these different types of ads in Google Ads?
For sure. So we've spoken about search campaigns and the ways to optimize, and we've discussed how, lead gen is definitely a full funnel effort. So whether the goal is scale or narrowing the focus, audiences really do play a large part in targeting the right customer at the right time in their journey. So for instance, if we're taking a look at the customer match and retargeting, this is the best way to reach audiences who have already engaged with your company. If we're taking a look at custom intent, this allows you to reach audiences who have recently searched for your keywords on Google. And if we think about scale and acquiring new customers, we also have a specific audience targeting to use here. For instance, life events would be used to reach people who have had major life milestones, such as getting married or moving. So ultimately, what we see is that there are so many different layers and levels of complexity, really a multitude of factors that go into creating that right advertising strategy for each of your clients. So whether it's the bidding, whether it's the audience targeting, all of the different full funnel products that you're having from video to search to display. and as well as being able to keep an eye on the competitive landscape and the shift in trends. So overall, really kudos to the Blue Corona team on being able to tackle this for your client base each and every day.
Well, Trista, Leon, Olivia, you guys threw a lot of great information at us here today. But I guess if I could summarize it, all of these new ad extensions and are great ways to help improve the efficiency of those campaigns, really stand out in search, and again, overall generate more website visits, clicks to the campaigns. But what really matters is qualified leads and sales. So we appreciate your time and your insight here today. I know you guys are busy over at Google as well. So as we talk next steps, if you're an existing client of Blue Corona and you have questions about your pay-per-click campaigns, maybe you're not sure if you are limited by budget or what more opportunity is out there to drive more qualified leads and sales through your funnel, go ahead and reach out to your account director or account manager. And if you're a prospective client or interested in possibly partnering with Blue Corona, feel free to give us a call at that phone number on your screen there, or head to bluecorona.com/contact us. Shoot us a message through our website. We'd be happy to talk with you more about how you can improve the efficiency and improve the overall performance of your pay-per-click campaigns, as well as how to drive leads, from other channels like SEO and social media and email marketing and so on. We'd be happy to have that conversation. So folks, now's probably the time you've been waiting for. Feel free to go ahead, and if you have any questions for Olivia, Leon, and Trista while we have them here today, go ahead and type in your questions using the Zoom webinar panel. You can chat that right in the Q&A spot right in your Zoom. And it looks like we've already had a couple questions come in. So we'll go ahead and get started with those questions as everyone else maybe who hasn't submitted theirs yet has some time to do so. So the first question here, maybe more for you, Olivia. How does someone who has the lead form extension enabled, how do they get those leads over to their team? Do they have to log into like Google Ads and download those leads, or does it go into their CRM? How does that work?
Yes, that's a great question. That was a very important aspect to us when we went about testing lead form extensions. Is we know that from your perspective, you want those leads to come in just like any other lead, and you want them to come in a timely manner. If you're looking in Google Ads to download that, 3 times a day, it still might be 3 hours after it came through. And, that's just time that customer could have gone to other companies. And so what we actually use is Google Ads has an integration capability where we set that up on the back end so that you're able to get those same forms delivered to the email address you choose. So just like you would receive any other forms from your website, that information will come to you or your CSR team in order for them to promptly respond to those leads and book a sale.
And when it comes to Google Ads recommendations, what is an acceptable optimization score, right? And how does the recommendations that Google itself provides, how do those impact those scores? And again, what is an acceptable score?
Yeah, and it's a tricky question, and I think Leon will probably say the same thing. We talk about this a lot, where the recommendations are automated, and so they're going to be based off of a larger subset, and it's going to be based off of what is or isn't employed in your account today. What it doesn't take into account is your strategy. So there can be recommendations that pop up that just based on your business, what your goals are, what you're going after, they don't make sense for your current strategy. And so we do our best to look through recommendations and find the ones that are relevant to your strategy and can build on that strategy and apply those recommendations while also giving the feedback of, this might not be relevant at this time because we've tried it and the quality of leads wasn't as good with, this segment, or, maybe right now we can't spend more. And so the recommendation to increase budget just isn't right for this time. we can give that feedback to the recommendation engine so that those recommendations improve in the future. Leon,
Yeah.
did you have?
I was gonna say it kind of nailed the right on the head, the nail on the head. Everything you said is true. It is correct. It is automated, and it does sometimes say, recommend things that might not go in accordance with your strategy or at the moment where your business is at. As far as when the score drops, is it a concern? Yes and no, right? When the score drops, it means that something that is on the table for you as a company is available and you're not taking advantage of it. So if it drops, it is a concern in terms of, let's see why it dropped and then see, hey, where can we go ahead and utilize some of these recommendations for our benefit? And then also if it's not, then at least we learn why the drop was there. And again, you can give the feedback and you can work on it so that when it is time for your business to utilize that product or increase budgets, whatever it is, then we can go ahead and use it. So it's kind of like a yes, but no, there isn't like a red flag where your account, could go into any sort of trouble kind of thing. If that helps.
Gotcha. And Olivia, since you work with a lot of our home service clients directly, how does things like capacity, right? Like our clients may have a full schedule one day and no calls scheduled for the next day. How do things like capacity factor into not only setting PPC budgets, but really managing those budgets according to capacity?
Absolutely. And, that is a huge factor into, the relationship that we have with our clients. We want to be aware of where there are capacity limits, because I can tell you, because I work very closely with them, that your PPC analyst is looking at campaigns and saying, how do I get the most conversions, the most leads out of these campaigns that I can? And so if we need that feedback to know when we're like pump the brakes or hit the green light, we need more. So those conversations I definitely encourage with your account manager to make sure that we're pushing in the right areas. But what's also important to know for us is this a short-term capacity issue, or is this going to be a long-term capacity issue? Are we running, a good example of this is, all right, you have 2 electricians and then one of them just put their 2 weeks notice in. Do you foresee needing to pull back on electric leads in the short term from PPC? Just depend on, SEO and other channels to drive those for the meantime to conserve that cost. And maybe we can push that budget towards a different channel that you need more demand from. So definitely we have a lot of levers that we can pull. And so that conversation is really important to keep your campaigns optimized. But the reason I say, is it short-term or is it long-term? Because if long-term, you just foresee, you're getting enough demand to fill capacity at the budget you're at, and, that's going to be a slower build, we'll make sure our targeting reflects that. We'll build as much efficiency as we can into where you're at. And what we want to do is grow with your business. So being aware of where you're at with capacity now, what you can fill, we can pull those levers now, or just prepare for as you hire and build on your business in the future, so that we set up campaigns that really grow with you.
Olivia, another one for you here, because it's Blue Corona specific. There's all sorts of, not all jobs are created equal, right? Someone installing or getting a new hot water or tankless hot water heater installed is going to be worth more in terms of revenue than maybe someone who just needs a new faucet installed in their guest bathroom. So how does Blue Corona take into account either services or job types that have a higher ticket value versus those who might have a lower ticket value, like a tune-up, for example?
Absolutely. First and foremost, we address this as best as we can in our campaign strategy. There are a lot of those types of leads where we know, drain and sewer, let's separate that because those are higher value. Install versus service, we'll want to separate because those are higher value. And we can take that into account in those smart bidding strategies as well. The target CPA we're going to set for something that has a really high, revenue value per job, we can push up on and maybe just try to build more efficiency into those jobs that average at a lower value.
Pulling it back a little bit, one of our attendees wants to know, they're a small business owner of a solar company. And I don't think this question really applies specifically to solar. I'm sure a lot of small business owners in the home services industry encounter this. How do they know, like, even how do they set a budget? How do they know how much they need to invest to get, quote unquote, maybe strong results?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And really, we can partner with you to help you get that budget recommendation, because there are other factors. There is, what's the size of your market? How many customers are in your market that would be searching for, a solar option for them? And then also, what are your goals? And, we can take those two pieces of information of, what type of market share you're going after and what the size of your market is, in order to make that specific recommendation for you. I will say that, every time we make a recommendation, it is off of, estimates based on our experience. But when it comes into, the real world, and when we actually launch campaigns, we're up against competition. Then we actually see, how the data is baking out. And so know that every time we give a recommendation, it's just that. It's a recommendation. It's a starting point. And then once we launch campaigns, we have so much more data of how customers are reacting to your brand and your ads and everything like that.
So are you saying, Olivia, it sounds like what you're saying, but maybe you could confirm, is that some of that data that we collect starting with a campaign launch and continue to collect helps drive further optimizations, and really that, hey, quote unquote, strong results might look differently from company to company, market to market, but, really defining what strong results are for you and managing the campaigns to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Defining those goals of, what you're looking to get out of pay-per-click, and then also, really what return on investment you're looking for, can really help us go after, as many leads at your target ROI that you're going for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. If
sorry,
I can
go ahead,
add,
Leon.
if I can just add, I mean, it like Olivia just mentioned, it's not a one size fits all. And this question can kind of encompass everything we kind of spoke about today, right? It's hard to tell one business what their budget should be, for the year, or, what their linear budget should be, because every business is going to be different, and every market is going to be different, and every goal is going to be different. Someone who might be in the solar company space might have a higher ROI per job than someone in a different industry. Right. So then again, that's where Blue Corona, like Olivia said, comes with data that we can provide. And Trista touched upon some of these as partners. We have market or industry data that we can help share for different areas, for different industries, to say, hey, this is what we're seeing, in the market. Then Blue Corona can say, hey, and this is what we've done with some of our other clients. And let's start with a little bit of manual, a little bit of smart bidding to go ahead and get some data, and then eventually grow, so that could be, let's start with $1 and turn it into, $1 million, or let's start with 10,000 and turn it into 20,000. Like, one size fits all doesn't exist, but it's all about the relationship and transparency that you can have, all of us can have, end client, Blue Corona, Google, to say, hey, from all the information we have, this is our recommendation. And then we can, that's a starting point.
Olivia, a question here kind of about driving leads during shoulder season. Are there particular paid search strategies that are better for, maybe the valleys of seasonality, right? When demand isn't quite as high, versus the peaks of seasonality when demand is very high and companies might not even be able to keep up?
Yeah. And so, something we see with a lot of clients is this peak and valley. And what's the toughest aspect of it is, during your peak, you also get better conversion rates. That intent is just coming through. And so one of the, phenomenons that we usually see during a shoulder season is also, lower search volume coming through, but also your competitors are feeling the heat too. They'll increase. And so sometimes you have, you have a hot market that you're competing against. So I think first and foremost, look for those spots where you are limited by budget, because that's an easy fix of, if you are in need and you have people kind of sitting around and you need to kind of fill some leads on your books, absolutely look for those opportunities. And that's another point where, if, where we might usually be budget constrained and we aren't anymore, that's where we'll shift into more target CPA bidding to allow Google to find, that bidder to be able to find those pockets of volume that, perform at a similar rate that we can go after, and really just try to maintain performance as best we can in the shoulder season.
Thank you, Olivia. Oh, Leon, did you want to add to that?
Well, just a little side note, right? There's a shoulder season, but we all know that a lot of these projects get maybe brewed up on, thought about, discussed in maybe some of those shoulder seasons. So being front and center, not only with, better strategies, being efficient while it is a shoulder season, but maybe even more of a branding effort, awareness effort, from time to time. It doesn't have to be, the craziest, but it just to make sure that we're still in front of people's eyes, minds whenever they are starting to think about it and saying, hey, in 3 months, we should probably do so-and-so. Everyone kind of looks through that, and the internet is always going, so it can't hurt.
I agree. That's the perfect time to really explore the funnel. Are you present on YouTube to get that awareness? Have we tried discovery and display? So that's the perfect time to think about the other layers of the funnel.
Olivia, I thought I heard you jump in. Did Trista steal your thunder there?
No, just completely agree with what she said. And we've seen that be successful. And something that we can track is, we're running branded campaigns to protect your branded search landscape. And something we often see is run a display prospecting campaign, and we can see that increase to your branded volume as a result. And so, if you are unlimited by budget and you are seeing, high spend in the summer months and it start to taper off, take that same investment that you're, and put it aside for display prospecting or video campaigns that can really drive your brand interest, and really power those more cost-effective channels in the future.
Well, that looks like it wraps up our Q&A session here. For everyone in attendance, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join us. Again, if you are a Blue Corona client and you're looking to see what sort of opportunity is out there from your pay-per-click campaigns, feel free to reach out to your account director or account manager. And if you're not a client, and again, just interested to see how Blue Corona could potentially improve the performance of your paid search campaigns or any of your digital marketing campaigns, feel free to give us give us a call at that number you see on your screen, or contact us online. Be happy to start that conversation with you and see if we're a good match for each other. Olivia, Trista, Leon, thank you for your time as well. We appreciate your knowledge and expertise and everything you guys shared with us. It was great to have you guys on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.